Wow, that audio is terrifying. Just like last time. uh, LV chat update something something something. So, uh, where to begin? I should have written something down. Well, yes, I guess yesterday, funny thing. You remember at the beginning of July, I wanted to hit the ground running and I like just with revising World 9 really quick and stuff like that. So that worked for like 2 weeks. And then I kind of forgot what I was supposed to do. In that, like, I worked for like 8 chapters, then I skipped a few chapters, did a few more chapters. I'm on like chapter 16 or something now. And I got to like some more parts that weren't quite done. And I started like working on those parts and things like that. And then just yesterday, I finally remembered what I was supposed to do because I was working on a part where Fudd goes to these markets and I hadn't written the part, but I had huge notes. Like it's probably 3,000 notes or words worth of notes. Like the whole chapter is basically there. It's just not in like written format. And I started working on it, and I was like, this is really hard because I don't know what Fudd does in the market or like what things I've described later and stuff like that. And then I was working on it for about a week, and then yesterday I was finally like, right, I was reading through the whole story of all the parts that are done so that this would be easy. So I wouldn't have to do this thing where I'm constantly looking ahead to figure out what I've done and things like that. Like, what am I doing? So I spent like a whole week just mulling over crap and not going anywhere. And then yesterday I was like, right, that's why I was reading through the whole book of what's done before doing this. And that's why I skipped earlier chapters. And yeah, so I finally remembered what to do. So now I'm back on track to do what I was supposed to do. And as of today. So that's something. Another thing is I went back to the starting to do the system again of like World 12, World 4, like all the more recent worlds and like clean them up.
Yeah.
Kind of like I did it with a bit with Kumojo as a test to see how I could clean things up, and it worked really well. But I never continued that into the worlds that we
Like
have
Human
rolled in like
Joe or
World 1
World One, yeah.
as just a test because I was cleaning up all of my folders, so I
But
cleaned up like
not Human Joe, but World One.
yeah. So like I just started to clean the grand scope of things, and actually I started with everything, and World 1 was at the top of the list, so I started going through it and I just like cleaned up the general folders. And then I was like, this is what okay, this whatever I'm doing here, it's working, and I should do that with all the ones that we have done that I haven't worked on yet. So like World 12 is the most recent one we rolled, or World 4, and they're just like or World 3. We rolled so many and I haven't cleaned them up yet. And it's just like I should go back to that because that gives me something to write, because I don't want to write worlds 27, 26, and 6 because they're all kind of done. And I'm not going to be writing world 9 for a while because I'm revising it. But then I'm not working on writing. I'm not like getting better at writing, or I don't have anything to write. So it's like I need to do that whole thing. And once I can do that, then I can put the ARN stuff and all the oven of ideas into spots. Like that whole process, I've gotten back into that recently. And so that's sparking some more creativity, because even when I was doing this revising world 9 and I had nothing to write, my if I came up with ideas or something, I would end up writing pieces of like world 27 and world 6 and world 26 and just adding on things that probably don't need to be added because the story's full already. And it was just not a good system, and I'm just cluttering out my baking folders and all of them again and ruining my day for future purposes. So that's the thing too. So I just kind of figured that all out over the last few days of like what I should be doing and get back to that, which is what I did for the first 2 weeks of July, and it was great. And the last couple weeks, like it's August 1st now. The back 2 weeks of July are just useless. So start August well again and stay on that. I'm probably going to update my checklist of ideas and paste it to the fridge so I don't forget what I was supposed to do and that type of stuff. And then I just messaged you that I looked up the laptop specs.
Yeah.
So one of the things is I've been meaning to get a laptop for a while because I want to use my computer just for writing, basically, and not actually use it for like, communication with my boss or like, Zoom calls. Like I could do them if I had a laptop and, all that stuff. But something that I recently looked into was after I played some new Smash game or whatever. Like I think I talked to you about that new Smash game coming out. Yeah, and I saw a couple other platform fighters and stuff like that. It just playing anything like that, just like with playing the old, Project M and stuff. The main thing it does is make me want to do HH and make like killer reality and all that. That is the main thing I get every time I play Smash or anything like it. It's like I want to like game development or like making that has always been in the back there. It's kind of like almost reminds me of like you with acting, where eventually you jumped into it and you started taking lessons, like started doing the acting thing, and it's great. And like this is something that this is like my version of that, of just something that has always been there. It's like I should do this one day, maybe. And it's
Develop
always been sitting there.
games.
Yeah. And the just in the last like 5-7 years ago or whatever, I started looking into it more when PM was in development and stuff like that, and started coding some Heroes of Might and Magic 3 stuff, things like that. But over the last few years, there's this another game software, kind of like Unity and Unreal were the big two ones, but there's this new one coming out that's all open source. So it's made by the community for the community. And a lot of some of the biggest like kind of YouTube tutorial people have either switched to it, or there's this one guy that 3 years ago apparently stopped making videos entirely and just quit the industry. But because this is all open source and like for the community and by community, he's back as of like a few months ago. And just like that kind of voluntary like for people vibe is back with this thing. And I watched a bunch of tutorials on it and it looks really easy. And it's not like a huge engine. It's like a zip file you can unfold. Like it's so easy to navigate. And I watched some stuff on it. It's like, wow, it's really easy to make games these days. Like it's really hitting that critical tipping point where I could go in there and do it. And like there are people who have, made a game in 30 days and it's like it turned out pretty good. And like they didn't know a thing about coding and all that. And so I would only want to do that on a laptop. But then I also found out that because I use Windows 7 and all this other stuff, I can't even do it on my computer either. So like more reasons to get a laptop. How many do I need before I do it? So one thing I was thinking is maybe LV thing to do with us would be back to the origins of doing HH, like the visual novel, the graphic novel, and all that. Because like even when say I plan to get this started in January or something, like get a laptop and hit the ground running with coding and all that, is we would need assets or at least a plan on like what to do with HH. And I have a few things in mind, like to do a basic board the platform thing, which is just character moving, landing on platforms. It looks really easy to do because like the most tutorials are about 2D side scrollers that are simple. I'd probably do it hand drawn because I found things like with pixel art, you have to do all these like camera mechanics. Because if you have like a resolution and it moves the camera half a pixel, it actually makes the pixels like mold and blur and all this other stuff. Like it doesn't work. Pixel art's really hard to animate compared to hand drawn, and hand drawn is more forgiving because one pixel out of place is terrible. And we're like, you can hand draw, and I've hand drawn, and like it'd probably be way easier than actually doing sprites and all this other stuff. So it's like if we prepare and plan a bunch of mini type games, like a single board platform stage, a character moving around and chases a rabbit, Mario 64 style, like all these really simple things like that are almost like games, but they're more like snapshots. And then we have a bunch of assets for like the story and the visual novel and characters and like stuff like that. And we actually just develop what that was. I think by the time January rolls around, we'll have enough assets. I'll know enough about coding, and I'll be like, when I start hitting the ground running with it, we'll probably be able to make games pretty quick and do that HH thing, which was like the origin of where we were kind of going with, with Treasure Tales, and it's like, let's try this other thing. And yeah, so I think that might be the way to go because it's looking really promising. Like the more I've looked into it, and yeah, and like every time I've talked to or showed people, like talked to just Chris and a few others, Jamie and stuff, like over the last few weeks about the like after playing Rivals, I talked to them about the platform I want to see, where it's like me and Chris played a bit of Melee, and it was like Young Link versus Doc, and like I paused the camera, and I was like, see, if I hit you with a move here, I want to like, if there's a platform in the air, to like bounce off that platform, and the character like slides under it, and then like they're hit this way, they like slide under it and then like grab the ledge and they swing up with momentum, and like think like solid platforms that are in the air, like a platformer that you just don't jump through the platforms, but you can use them and stuff like that. Like why haven't platformers done this? And like just these little things, and they're all like so stoked on it. And like we've talked about all sorts of cool stuff with it. And then when I show like somebody the sprites that I've made, or like the little drawings or game design ideas or something, they're all so stoked on it. And like we've been stoked on it so much before, and I'm still stoked on it. And like I think it's completely doable now. It's within the realm of ease doability, like not some like daunting task, but actually doable. And it's kind of like that thing that's been on the back burner, almost like waiting for like maybe this will be doable one day. And I think it has reached that point. And I think it's time for us to maybe actually give it a try, because we never really like went all out to be like, how do we make this thing? It was
Yeah,
more like some ideas. And, yeah.
playing around with how would we maybe animate it with whatever programs we had that weren't game programs there.
Photoshop is where I did any animation I've ever done was Photoshop. It's not for animation. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that might be the route for us to take, because like with novels and stuff, I can, we know what we're doing there. Like now that I'm back on track of what I know what to do, and we know what we're doing long term of like when things are done, I'll eventually like actually send you pieces that are more finished rather than just like random chapters from stories or unfinished things like what I've given you already. It's just like the first chapters that are subject to a lot of change. Like, more change than probably the rest of the book, because the openings to stories always change more than anything. And like so like we know what's going on with all that. And then the with Treasure Tales is kind of like that thing, we can do stuff together and like in our own ways and make assets and get ready for like and plan out something that is it's doable and it's separate from the stuff that we already know is going on that we can't really do stuff for yet.
The Treasure
Yeah,
Tales HH.
yeah, HH, yeah, yeah. So I think that's the way to go. Yeah, that's just what I've been cropping up over the last couple weeks of me failing at novel writing, because I started trying to write sections that I shouldn't have been writing yet, and without reading the book first and all that, I started to like consider other things and like all this other stuff, like playing different games like Shadowverse and Rivals and all this other stuff, and chatting with people about stuff. It's like, wait, maybe I should look into this game development thing again, back to like the roots of where we started with HH, and it's looking good. It's actually looking really good. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. Which I don't know what to do from right now, but the some obvious things is like we're gonna need dash like running animations and standing animations for characters, so we could like just immediately start working on things and like just do stuff.
Yeah, kind of like deciding what maybe main character or environment kind of set up to play with, to focus on one character and
Yeah.
to make Noah, move.
Noah swinging a bag around with elements.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing. It's probably the thing. And then these update videos might actually have stuff, because we'll be able to do stuff again, which we haven't been able to do for years. Um, yeah.
yeah.
So what? See, how would we like get rolling with this? We just wanted to like,
Well, I think it might be helpful if you send me some videos that you watched about the game
right.
design kind of stuff, so I can see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I don't know, kind of, I guess, make a list of like what would be needed as assets for like one character to move around and, or what level.
Uh, yeah, I think with it, the one of the most important things that I've seen is like you make really, really tiny things, like the character can just move, jump, and stuff, and you try and land on certain platforms.
Yeah,
And when you land on the platforms, a certain trigger happens, and then when you land on the platforms, you win the game. And then that's like simple. And then another one is you add a blocking to the character, and then like a little potato that shoots at them. So now you have to learn how to do hurt boxes and hit boxes and like what graphic animations look like, and that's another one. And then the character has an attack and they hit targets, and you have to hit the targets in you, and like just little small things. So we could probably do like Noah for board the platforms,
yeah,
or the target one, he has to hit the targets with his bag, and then another one you catch the potato bullet with his bag, or and then try like what if slight swings on arms and you have to land on platforms. So we're like using a little momentum mechanics and platform things, like really, really simple things. So we could probably do multiple tiny things, but to start with just naturally with any character, we're going to need like just what they look like when they're standing still, what they look like when they're running, little things like that for assets. And then, yeah, just come up with the, if we do say Noah and board the platforms first. So Noah has to land on platforms, and he has some moves where he swings his bag to fly a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a simplest version. It's cool how
Yeah.
Smash Bros had both those things at the beginning, or the
Yeah.
platform targets, like these simple game mechanic kind of thing.
It really feels like I wouldn't doubt that when they were trying to develop that thing, like how does this work? That was some of the first stuff they did. It's just we just need characters to be able to like move to get to places because they're platforms, and it's like let's do some test runs, and they need to hit things. Let's make some targets for them to hit, and they're like, this is kind of fun. Let's put it in the game. I would not be surprised if that was a thing. And then like naturally put in some lava in the board of the platforms. So when you hit it, you get hit, and then we can do all the get hit effects. And like, we're just gonna do 64. We're gonna do what they did in the development of Nintendo 64. Smash Bros. 64. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So like a Noah idle animation, Noah starting a run, mid run, and then like stopping or something. I guess just run doesn't need to be fancy. Just we can do you can add anything later. Just walk, run, not even walk, just stand, run. A couple platforms that what they look like when they're not stepped on, platforms that look like when they've been stepped on. Maybe a blink, like a single frame that's like brighter, so it's like when it's stepped on, and then things that aren't platforms that you would need to step on, just like what normal terrain looks like. So like, and then to do it in like a tile set, so it's like little squares of terrain, like, and then you could just put as many squares in a row you want, and like then if you have the grass that's like the top, then like some rock that you can just fill in the space underneath to make like larger platforms or whatever. There's a really simple thing like that, and then you just make as many of these as possible, or as you would need to, and then some of those put those platforms around, and then Noah being able to run and jump, and that's it. Just start with that, and then add everything else can come later. Of like, okay, we want him to have a double jump, like, or anything else that could all come later. So yeah, walk, run, a platform that when you stand on it, it blinks. And none of this has to be like good because we're just gonna redo it eventually. Like it's just simple, play with it, make funny expressions if we wanted. Like we could mess around with assets because like drawing is a strength, coding is not the strength. So to play with that side of it and have fun with that as much as possible, because like the other side of it is going to be I'll send you the links so you could download and play with it too, because it looks really easy to actually code these things in now, and you might be able to like have a lot of fun with it too, because it looks like a blast once you get going. And just mess around with that once we get it, like once you have the thing, and like the minor coding things of like this causes this to happen and this causes this to happen, and it's like, and when you run into a wall, you stop, and then you can just put these walls everywhere, and there's just like Lego after that, like digital Lego. And so the fun part comes after a bit of a learning curve, but it doesn't look like it's a big learning curve anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I guess, yeah, you draw Noah running and like some kind of idle animation, and I could do, and I guess jumping, and then I could just do another character. Like the more assets we have, the better or something. Or I could do like Noah bag swings for like a future animation, or like maybe I'll draw a potato that like shoots something,
Right.
like just something that we'll use later. So you can do like the character and like whatever Noah's expressions are, and give him the personality, and like keep things consistent with the character. And then whatever terrain that looks good, that kind of might match his palette, so that actually looks okay. Because if I make like a dark blue weird terrain that's off color palette from whatever you've been using, like it'll look weird. So just hand draw all this stuff basically, and then I'll do like little hand drawn potatoes and give them like a flickering animation that when they fly around or something, and that we can use that as a add on to that one, like once that's done. And then that there. And once we have those animations, we can just like set that aside and like design the, what, some basics with that, and then move on to like the next thing. It's like, okay, what does a target look like, and how, what let's, you know, whatever else. What does a bag attack look like in elements in a bag or something?
So like a standing animation or whatever, like the drawings, how many pictures? Because it's got to be, and I'm not
Yeah.
animating, I'm just making.
Yeah, like a kind of like an idle animation of, you can almost maybe look at like Nintendo 64 or Paper Mario or something. Like Paper Mario, I think he just like bobs up and down. So that type of thing. And then a run animation is just like, the kinds of him like 1 foot forward, the other foot forward, and then like a couple in betweens just to make it look okay. Like it doesn't have to look good at all. And then if we put it into the animator, it's like, eh. Well, we can fix it up later. We could add as many things as we want, like particle effects and more in betweens, and yeah, we can change anything at all. But if you have like a few images that kind of look like they mildly flow together, and I don't even know what program to use that for, like
Well, I mean, probably like I've Photoshop draw these things, but
yeah,
I wonder what size of image. Also, I mean that's scalable.
right, yeah, yeah,
PNGs or like that, what kind of files needed.
yeah. When we look at the Godot kind of video tutorials, will probably say things, and then of course there's like, you can almost there are like assets downloads you can just download. So we could just download an asset that looks like something that we would use. We could use that asset, or we could just be like, okay, this is what an asset needs to be, and we'll probably see like it has this many frames in a run animation to make it look like, and then it probably has a video of like the run animation. It's like, okay, this is many frames is like what that looks like, and then you just draw Noah instead of whatever that is. Yeah, make things really simple, really efficient, and just like do the very basic minimal possible to just get things going and try to make this work. And then we can start doing things like, working on the story and get back to that again. And then, just get who are these characters, get their personality, come up with, all the fancy things we would want in the game eventually, of like, whether it's move sets or just like level design, things like that. Like we could start doing all that while just working on the base minimal assets, so we can learn this other ballpark that we're not in yet.
Yeah, and eventually actually have that storybook, them talking to each other and then walk to the pillar reality place. And
yeah, I think it's a lot more doable than it was a few years ago, and a lot more doable than I thought it would be at this point. Like when I looked into these things, that's it. Yeah, it's cool. And yeah, who knows if we get like minor demos of these things that look okay, and then we can send it to any of our, I've, the whole Smash group of like Dan, Justin, Luke, and all them. They play Smash and they all code. And then there's like Corey and Deltsy and all those other people that code. Like there's people around that just randomly happen to code and play Smash or play video games or something, that be like, hey, do you want to help out or be involved or anything? And yeah, who knows? Just do the bare minimum, get some minor prototypes and demos as we work on like the greater story, and we learn this whole avenue of like this literacy of this other thing, and yeah, start doing HH. And then eventually they'll just be like, yo, here's a novel too. Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Sounds good. We'll call this for the update. See you next month.
So yeah.